Hello my dears, today I have a book reviews video. In here I've got classics, poetry, fashion, kids books, graphic novels. I've got a bit of everything for everyone in here. So I'm going to give you my reviews. First up, I'm going to start with something that I feel like everyone will love, because a lot of people who watch my channel are also into. Frida Kahlo, who is my queen. I love Frida Kahlo so much. So this is actually a series. Little People Big Dreams is a series where they've done like Rosa Parks and Coco Chanel, very famous women, and they just tell their stories. It's children's picture book stories of those women's lives. So here's an idea of the art style. It's very bright, it's very colourful, so it suits Frida Kahlo really well. And it takes you from her childhood right up to her death. But it's also very like sugar-coated, kid-friendly book. So Frida Kahlo, she was in a bus accident when she was younger, and she spent her life having loads of operations and being bedbound. And so that's not, it's mentioned in here, but it's not in here that much. And then she committed suicide. There's no mention of that in here. It's very cutesy and sweet, and at the end it's like, nothing stopped her from painting, no illness, pain or heartache. We'll leave it there, when actually the reality of the situation is she had to have her leg amputated and she was in so much pain and operations, and it was awful that she committed suicide. But let's keep it friendly for children. She lived a happy life. I like that right at the end it has actual pictures of Frida Kahlo and factual dates in it. I think this is great for children. I think this is great if you're a Frida Kahlo fan. You need this in your collection. I absolutely love it. Next up I have a classic. This is a classic novella by Henry James. It's called The Beast in the Jungle, and this came out in 1903. It is a novella and it's about a man who thinks something bad is going to happen in his life. This sounds really boring. Let me say that now. He just thinks that there's a beast in the jungle, there's a beast in his life, something bad's going to happen to him. Nothing bad has happened to him, but he just thinks, I can't live life properly and normally like everyone else and get married and have children and all that, because I'm just going to leave my children heartbroken and my wife because something bad is going to happen. Some tragedy is going to fall upon me in my life. He then meets a woman and he tells her this situation, and the two of them kind of date, but they never really do date. So they're both kind of companionship, and she wants to marry him and have children, and you can tell he wants that too, but they're both like, oh, but we can't really live life and be happy because the beast in the jungle, when's it coming? What do you think it's going to be? What's going to happen? And they spend their whole lives worrying, and then at the end it's like, do you know what the real beast in the jungle is? Not living your life. Wasting your life is the biggest tragedy you can commit upon yourself. So it's kind of like, yeah, there is a beast in the jungle. You not living your life, you worrying to the point of stop living. Oh my god, it's so good. It's just such a good message, and I feel like it's a really good message in these days when we have 24-hour news and we're on high alert for terrorism and loads of different stuff, and it's like the media outlet and kind of pushing it in our face is much bigger than the actual threat. Because if you look at the actual likelihood of a lot of things, you would think they're a lot higher if you watch the news and you take that in, because there's so much fear-mongering. But then when you actually look at it, you're like, oh no, actually it's so disproportionate, it's unbelievable. And I don't think 24-hour news, right? I don't think we get more news, I think we get more fear-mongering. So you think we would get more news stories, we've never had more news and accessibility to news in our lives. But really I think what happens is it's still a few stories, but then they bring on experts who just give their opinion and like, well, this could happen and this could be worse, and fear-mongering and be scared and stay in your house and don't question anything and just stay there. And so I feel like we are living in a very fearing time. I mean, Trump is president. Let's just be honest for a second. That man is president of the United States of America. So people are obviously worried. It's obviously a worrying thing when he can't keep a single person in his government. He's firing everyone 24/7. It's like a conveyor belt of people there in like one of the most powerful countries in the world. It is worrying times. Hunchback of Notre Dame. If you are a watcher in life, you're going to watch your life. Watch on right. What? if you watch life, you're going to watch your life go on by. Yes. Hunchback of Notre Dame, one of the little statues says it. Greatest advice I've ever heard in my life. So it's like, don't worry in life about things to the point where you stop living, because that would be your greatest tragedy. So sad at the end. She gets really sick and she dies, and then he kind of realises, oh my god, it's too late. That was the beast in the jungle, not living my life. And it's really, really sad. Next up I have a book which people really love. This is Alexa Chung's It, And Alexa Chung is a socialite in the UK, but she's also a presenter. She's just a very attractive woman. She used to be a model. She's very beautiful and she's got a very quirky style. So this is a book she brought out. Let me show you some pages, where she's got drawings and her photography and her writing in it, and it is all to do with fashion and style. But for me, it read like a list of people that she likes their style. So Wednesday Addams gets a mention, Coco Chanel, loads of different people, but it didn't really go into why. It was like, I like Coco Chanel's style, she's very chic. Next person. It just felt like a list of people. This is a very quick read. This feels like going through someone's Instagram, to be honest with you. You know, like me, I have very long statements on like Instagram sometimes. It felt like an Instagram book, and this is £16.99. I wouldn't pay that for it. I got it out the good old library. I don't think there's enough content in it to warrant that price tag, and I understand, you know, it's cloth bound. People love a cloth bound. Jesus Christ, I'll buy anything with a cloth bound on. But a lot of it is just kind of wasted pages, and I feel like she must have been told you have to fill this amount of pages, which happens a lot with kind of celebrity books. They have to reach a page number, and she went back and had to just fill in the gaps. And so some of it was good, but overall it was a very kind of meh read for me. I didn't really get that much out of it. Next up, I have a graphic novel. This is by Evie, Wyld and Joe Summer, Everything is Teeth, and this is about Evie's actual childhood. She had a fear of sharks. So where she lived, there were sharks, and people in her family would tell her shark stories, but then there's a picture of a little girl there and a shark above her. When she was just walking along the street, she'd be like, what if a shark gets me? If her little toe like went outside the bed, she was like, what if the shark's under my bed and gets me? And it's a real fear for her. And this isn't going to be one of my favourite graphic novels of all time, but it made me remember those irrational fears you have as a child. I watched the cartoon Anastasia, and Rasputin in it is so terrifying. So when I was a little girl, if I went into like a dark room, I'd be like, Rasputin's gonna get me, like Rasputin from the cartoon. Children often have irrational fears. Mine was Rasputin. I was bloody terrified. That film is quite terrifying for a child though, let me say that. And hers is sharks. And I think when children have these irrational fears, we kind of laugh and we think they're funny, but to the children it's so scary and so real. They don't have that bit in that brain of like sense and logic to put this in a situation. So her brother goes for like a swim and she's really worried, and then her mum goes for a swim, and you can kind of feel her anxious and anxiety-ness within it, but they're in like a lake, so there isn't going to be any sharks about or anything like that, but you can just feel it within her, and she has all these fantasies about these sharks killing her loved ones, and it's so real to her. I loved the end papers. Look how gorgeous they are. The art style is one of the weirdest art styles I've ever seen. So just normal kind of black and white, quite like big pictures, but when sharks are drawn within it, sharks are drawn like photographs, which I found very, very odd. So it's all black and white, and then can you see the grey areas? They are the sharks, like photographs within it, and maybe that's to make it a little bit more real, like the real sharks that she sees, because she gets a lot of books out about sharks and becomes very fascinated. I really liked this. I think that sometimes we dismiss children too much. We're like, oh my god, like that's a fear, that's a bit weird, and laugh about it, but we forget that to that child it is such a real deep concerning fear. I often think this is good, right, there's my opinion on babbling. This is really good. I did enjoy it. I felt like compassion for children. But what I was going to say is that I feel like when teenagers are depressed and down, we often go, oh, they're just down, they're just teenagers, it's hormonal, when actually teenagers can have depression as well and be going through very serious adult subject matters, but it's just passed off as, oh, she's moody, she's a teenager. And I think that's something that really needs to be looked into. So I thought about like being a child, and it took me back to there, and how your fears that are irrational are so rational in your little brain that you can't even, like if my foot went onto the bed, I was like, Rasputin's gonna get it, oh my god, Rasputin. And last but not least, we're gonna finish with good old Philip Larkin. This is poetry collection, The Whitsun Weddings. I love Philip Larkin's poetry. It's very sarcastic, it's very down on everyone. As you can see, I've like scribbled over every single page, but I really love it. He hates everyone, basically. Anything anyone does, he hates and he critiques, and that's very much what his poetry is. It's a very grim outlook on the world and on life. Oh my god, look at that one. Like, girl, control yourself. But I loved it. I loved annotating it. I loved seeing the meaning and all the different stuff. I thought it was really good. One thing I will say is that it took me quite a long time to read because he's so down about everything and he's so grumpy about everything. It started to annoy me. So I love his poetry, but I can't read it in like bulks because it makes me irritated and annoyed. And some things I get what he's saying, but other things he just picks, like I said, at everything. So like weddings, he's picking them apart. And he was talking about people who say that they can heal people, how they're terrible people, and I agree, they're con artists. People that say, I'll touch you and heal you, con artists taking vulnerable people's money. And then he went into people who go to church and church makes them feel better about life. And he was like, they're pathetic, these pathetic, vulnerable, weird women. And I just thought, the world is a really difficult place to kind of navigate and be in, and if you find something that makes it easier, I'm not religious, but I do feel very envious of people who are, people who believe that God is always looking after them and that everything is in God's chosen a path for you and everything's going to be okay. I think that must be incredibly comforting for people to have that security and safety net around them. But I find that within my parents, like I always know my parents are going to be there for me, whatever I do, say I do something wrong within life, they're going to be there for me and help me, or whatever situation and problem I have. So I had that with my parents, but other people have it with God. And I think whatever way, whatever safety net or like safety blanket you want to wrap around yourself is fine, because the world is a difficult place. So I found him on that a little bit irritating in my opinion, but I really like his poetry. It's very English, very nice, very like satirical English, bitey humour, which I like. Also, I hope you like my little plant corner. Look at me, Mother Nature, who do I think I am? So, oh sorry, I was like bending that plant, do you see, like snapping it, sorry guys. Okay, I'm talking to my plants like, sorry guys, how you doing, how's your day? I'm gonna stop because I'm sounding mental. Okay, bye, see you soon. Feel free to subscribe if you're new, leave a comment and we can have a natter and a chatter. Okay, bye. How's your day been, guys? How you doing? Oh look, it's like I'm holding its hand with the leaf. Like, ah. Hello there, lovely. Good morning. How are you today? Are you coming out? Or he's like me in the morning. Like, no, get away from me. I'm going back to sleep, girl.